All right, this reading will be of page 93 through 106. This probably will get broken down into two parts. Part 4, Introduction. By 1943, the residents of the Lodz Ghetto had heard the rumors about Nazi extermination camps. Most did not believe Rumkowski's reassurances that everything was under control. Rumkowski kept telling the Jews that they were necessary to the Nazis as long as they continued working and producing. There were 96 factories in the Lodz Ghetto with more than 70,000 workers. Most of the factories produced textiles. Some built munitions. The men and women in the ghetto tried to convince themselves that their work really was essential, that the Nazis would not harm them. In the Lodz Ghetto, some people tried to form an underground group to fight back against the Nazis, but it was impossible to organize anything effective. In the capital city of Warsaw, however, resistance was more successful. After watching the population of the Warsaw Ghetto dwindle from 350,000 to less than 35,000, some of the remaining Jews fought back. They held uprisings and used guns and homemade bombs. For the first time in the war, Jews killed Germans. The German troops, of course, retaliated. In April 1943, German soldiers set the ghetto on fire and watched it burn. Many Jews burned to death, and others were shot by the Nazis as they tried to escape. The tale of the Warsaw Ghetto heroics spread to the residents of Lodz. They quietly cheered the brave Jews who had fought back, even as they mourned the deaths of so many. Winter 1942 to spring 1944. Almost 2 years go by. Days and days of hiding turn into weeks and then months. Each day seems the same except for the weather. It changes with the seasons. Sometimes it's freezing cold in our apartment, and sometimes it's boiling hot. Another ghetto. Sometimes I forget that there are people outside our ghetto. Dora says that in another city, our capital city, there is a ghetto even larger than ours. It is the Warsaw Ghetto, and something incredible is happening there. Jews are fighting back. Dora says there have been uprisings by the Jews with stolen guns, bombs, grenades. They have killed some soldiers. Dora calls them resistance fighters who make their plans underground. I imagine them like ants tunneling through the ground with guns. But then Dora explains it's not that kind of underground. Still, I can't help but wonder what's going on under the ground of Lodz. Dora says, not much. Growing girl. I grow taller and skinnier. Mother frets that I am all bones, but she is just as thin. There's little food, and a number of times we come close to starving. It is kind of like sleepwalking to live life in the ghetto. We are all weak and our brains are foggy. A little while ago, they changed the rules again. One child now allowed per family. The Nazis perhaps could not keep track of all the new babies being born, so they decided not to bother. And of course, they think there are no older children left. The new rule did not change things much, though, because Mother says it is too dangerous for me to go outside anyway. Too much filth, sickness, sadness. But it feels a little nice to know that if I did step outside, I wouldn't be breaking the rules. I have my 8th birthday while in hiding, and then my 9th. Time goes on, and so do we. Part 5. By mid-1944, all of the ghettos except for Lodz had been destroyed. Rumkowski repeated that Lodz had survived because of the ghetto's hard workers. But then the Nazis asked for volunteers to help clean up cities in Germany that had been bombed. While the Jews in Lodz were suspicious of this request, the Nazis made it seem legitimate. Volunteers lined up at the train station, and soldiers carefully checked their luggage, assuring the men and women they would get their belongings back at the end of the journey. The soldiers also apologized for the uncomfortable method of travel. Freight cars, they explained, were the only transportation not being used to fight the war. By July 15th, 7,175 volunteers had taken the trains to Kelmo extermination camp, where they were killed. Then began liquidation. The Nazis ordered the Lodz Ghetto to be emptied of people. This time, there was no request for volunteers, no checking of baggage. From August 27th to August 30th, the residents of Lodz were transported out of the ghetto in crowded freight trains. Their destination was Auschwitz-Birkenau, where crematory ovens burned 24 hours a day. When the last train departed, 74,000 persons had already been sent to Auschwitz. Among the last to go were Rumkowski and his new wife, who were gassed to death. Approximately 1,200 Jews were left behind in the ghetto to clean it up. Outside the ghetto, war raged on. On June 6, 1944, the Allies stormed the beaches of Normandy, France, a day known as D-Day. The Allies were on their way to winning the war in Europe.